I am going to the convention and I am going to do an apostate live stream in the middle of thousands of believing Jehovah's Witnesses. But before we do, how much money is it in being an apostate? I'll go behind the scenes and show you exactly how much money I make month to month in my latest video for patrons and YouTube supporters. Join them at literally any tier to watch that and other behind the scenes videos and posts. Let's infiltrate the convention now. So, I'm gonna go get a program to see at what time I need to come back tomorrow because I'm not gonna be here, early in the morning. What are you talking about? That's crazy. That's not gonna happen. And I got it. Now, obviously, I had to have a little conversation with the person who gave it to me. He was just like waiting there by the door. And by the way, like this is nicer than when I used to go to the convention. When I used to go to the convention, it was just like one ink print. And I think he's not gonna recognize me tomorrow. Us. She didn't go in, so they're not gonna recognize her. But they're not gonna recognize me because I wore a hat and aviator glasses, which of course allow you to stay incognito forever. This is a plan. This pocket square, perfectly centered to hide that I have my phone over here, and then I'll be recording the whole time. So we just drove to where the convention is gonna be. It's in this building over here, and we wanted to get in right at the end of the intermission because it's gonna be very normal to see people come back even with their suits and their briefcases and look for a seat because a lot of people leave the place, the venue, to go eat elsewhere. I removed my nail polish. I couldn't cover my tattoo, but I don't have an earring. I got a haircut. I combed it like as close as possible to my scalp, so it looks like short because I wasn't gonna ruin my hair just because I'm going to a Jehovah's Witness meeting. So I told him, yeah, just keep it short at the sides, but don't ruin the growth at that time. I have been inside my ex-Jehovah's Witness bubble for too long because despite all of the anecdotal reports of people leaving their religion in droves, this convention hall in a small Mexican city was as packed as any of the conventions I attended when I was growing up. That is a lot of people. It's pretty hot. Oh my God.
It's a sea of people.
Oh my God. This is a lot of people. Big it is?
Should we take our glasses?
What?
Should we take our glasses?
Sure. This is so many people. That is crazy. This is insane. I'm speechless. I've never seen this many people in a I have, but just none in the past decade and a half. Let's keep going. Everybody's looking around for their friends in the intermission. It's fine. Yeah, I'm a little bit too interested. Jehovah's Witnesses are always kind of bored a bit. Oh my God, I am shocked though. I am shocked. This is insane. This is insane. This is a gigantic convention. This is insane. Oh my God.
Stop looking shocked.
We'll have to sit in the middle.
Yeah.
Look over there. There's a pocket that looks empty. And before I knew it, the convention was starting. After all this time, I thought I'd feel apprehensive coming back, but as soon as the convention started, the familiar JW monotone echoing across a giant auditorium packed with thousands of people made me feel right at home. Concretely, right in my bed at home, because before I had time to process what was happening, I was already bored and daydreaming like every other convention I ever attended. As I looked around, I finally saw just how little attention Jehovah's Witnesses actually pay to these speeches. Practically all of them are bored with their glassy eyes pointed forward while their mind is clearly miles away, coming back only to half look for some Bible verse when it's quoted sometimes. If anything, instead of being nervous or apprehensive about my planned apostate livestream in the middle of the convention, I was so bored, I seriously considered simply moving it up and starting it early, but alas, I just waited in boredom until the livestream started.
Hello, we're at the convention. Say hello. We're at the convention and we're seeing if we get kicked out. How are you doing?
Live streaming was easy. I simply used my phone as a hotspot named JW Fax or something like that, took my laptop with a privacy filter, and chose seats with nobody immediately next to them while I used wired earbuds with a microphone. The live stream was a very important part of this process. You see, there are always conspiracy theorists in the ex-Jehovah's Witness sphere, even among content creators, saying that the JW cult keeps us apostates under a close eye. And as someone who was targeted by them fairly early on, forcing me to disclose personal information and threatening with channel deletion, I was in a perfect position to figure out how close of an eye they would keep on someone like me. Because how would you test whether Jehovah's Witness headquarters keeps a close eye on apostates? Well, if there's any kind of apostate monitoring team, or even one Bethelite in charge of keeping an eye on ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, the easiest way to do it would be to create a blank YouTube account that could subscribe to all known ex-Jehovah's Witnesses from which you could keep eyes on them. That would be the easiest, most effective way of doing things. In fact, I kind of do my own version of that to keep an eye on the ex-Jehovah's Witness sphere. And since they're aware of me based on my previous interactions with them, then I would be on that subscribe feed. That's why I announced the live stream to all of my subscribers 2 days in advance, letting them know that I would be live streaming from a JW convention. I wanted to give them notice, not just to my subscribers, but to any Bethelite that may be watching, that I would be doing this live stream. So even if they checked it every other day, they would know that that was coming. That's also why I couldn't move up the live stream despite being bored AF, because I wanted to give Bethel as much leeway as possible by starting when they would hypothetically be expecting me. Because Jehovah's Witnesses love two things: feeling persecuted and feeling important. If anyone at headquarters was monitoring as Jehovah's Witnesses like me, it would be to keep apostates from doing exactly what I was doing, apostatizing right in their midst. That would be the whole point of having that team. If they were monitoring me, then they would immediately ring the apostate alarm, track me down, and tell me that my invitation was rescinded or whatever, and tell me to get out, to which I would have obviously complied without a fuss. They might have even used that example of getting rid of an apostate later on in a convention as persecution porn to validate their beliefs, but that was a risk I was willing to take. After all, I was planning to leave in the last speech, so, they wouldn't have that much of a time to add that in. That's also why we were incognito as Jehovah's Witnesses, since that would not only allow us to observe the convention as one of the attendees, but it would also make it impossible for anyone to know we were apostates unless they were watching that live stream. To give them the best shot at catching us, which wouldn't be hard since I did say that I was in Mexico and there were only a couple of conventions happening that day where I could be live streaming from, I asked Rindala to stream from her phone too as a secondary camera so the place could be easily visible. That being said, I was not going to give them the satisfaction of validating their beliefs by playing into their apostate stereotype, so I had no plans to antagonize or confront anyone. We were just going with the flow.
Rindala's a little bit paranoid. Mhm. That is it. Look at the second cam. Look how big this place is. Can you see how big this place is? Check it out. It is gigantic.
If anything, the most conspicuous thing was when Rindala literally got lost and couldn't find me after showing the place around because the place was so big and packed with people, she didn't remember where she was seated 10 minutes before. As someone who grew up with that problem, I was just thankful we had now phones so we could find each other. But even then, the place was so large and packed, I actively had to keep an eye out for her to get her attention so she could find me. The most notable thing to me was, again, the attendance. There were over 17,000 people there, which were pretty much the same as the 16,000 that attended the Sunday program the year before. Among them, 200 people were baptized, which follows the usual 1 to 2% of attendance I have noticed get baptized at conventions since I was a kid. Usually close to 1%, but closer to like 2% if it's like a big convention.
I know this isn't the narrative that we're used to hearing because we're used to thinking that a lot of people are falling off. It doesn't seem to be the case in this convention.
And with all of that data collected, after live streaming for an hour, it was time to leave before the convention ended so I wouldn't get stuck in traffic for another hour with other 5,000 cars.
So, yeah, what do you say if we just leave?
Yes.
Should we just leave?
Yes.
Let's just leave,
Yes.
but I'll just have the computer with me because I don't mind if I'm live streaming like a little bit more outright. I have a privacy screen anyway. Also, like I love being able to just leave the convention early. That is such a privilege. What are you saying? I know you don't know. Give the way out, of course, of course. I need you guys to see this. I don't think you understand how full this is. This is gigantic. I'm telling you, like this makes me feel in despair because there's so many people who are believing in this cult who are still trapped. I just feel sad and depressed and frustrated because there's so many people. And let's go this way. Permiso. Gracias. Check out the crowd, guys. Just check out the crowd. Look at all of these people. Look at all of these people, guys. Guys. The attendance, see, passing by the attendance and they don't even care. Do you see this? Do you see it? We're leaving already. This was a crazy thing. This was you walk like you're paranoid stoned. I'm not paranoid stoned. I have almost 200 people like on my hand in a convention where we are all, persona non grata. So I am a little bit nervous, if I'm honest. But yeah, we need to leave. I don't know why Rindala is still recording my butt. We are leaving the convention. We left a little bit early because I didn't want to get stuck in traffic. And what do you think of it?
So yeah, it was huge, filled with so many people. I did not expect that, and no one was paying attention. That was the most shocking thing. Maybe
Nobody is ever paying attention when they're in a Jehovah's Witness thing. I think though, like that's just
No, it wasn't like the last thing we went to. What was it? Not the convention.
the memorial.
Yeah.
Well, the memorial is only 1 hour long. We went to the Sunday afternoon session. Like everybody's tired by then. Nobody's paying attention. And look, no Jehovah's Witness is ever actively paying attention to whatever is being said at the platform. They just pretend to do it until they get too tired to pretend, and then they just get this glossy look of just they're just staring at nothing while daydreaming. However, in my days, we didn't have phones. There were a lot of people using phones, right?
Yeah, that's my point. Everyone was on their phone, eating pizza, drinking, chatting, sleeping. So
You're a worldly person. You've never been to one of these. What would have to happen for somebody to invite you to one of these conventions and you to be like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool? Or if you had never heard of this cult or whatever, what would you think of the convention? Like how does it look like?
if I went like completely blind with no info.
Yeah, you don't know about Jehovah's Witnesses. You're just like someone at your job is just a Jehovah's Witness, and they're like, there's this convention that we're gonna go to, and that's why you attended, because somebody invited you attended. Not that Jehovah's Witnesses ever invite people. I mean, or that the invitees will ever actually become attendees, right? Like that's none of that's ever happening. But if you had gotten an invitation, and if you had gotten invited, what would you be thinking when you entered, when you saw all of that?
I guess like, wow, it's amazing that this religion has so many followers. The numbers was really impressive.
There's a lot of people, you guys. Oh my God, it's an insane amount of people.
I guess the behavior wouldn't have surprised me as much without any context, because the cultural way they act is like in Syria. I feel like that's exactly what we would have been doing.
Did you also have conventions where you listen to Gage Fleegle?
A church. But I guess
so. It looks like a church to you?
It doesn't look like church. I'm talking about behavior.
I mean, feels.
Oh
Does it feel like a church? Like attending a church? Like, is that the same feel? Because I don't know. I've never been to a church, as I was wondering if I should believe or not.
But I was saying the way people were behaving, chatting and stuff on the sides, that wouldn't have shocked me as much if I had no context, because I'd be like, oh yeah, that's how we do it in Syria and church, right? But because of the context I have, I usually see it maybe in American context, or like the other meeting we went to. Everyone was so well behaved and quiet and stuff. That's the picture I had in my mind.
All right.
Does this make any sense?
I guess, but what did you think of the information that you were listening to?
I did not listen to anything.
Nobody's listening to anything. There's just so much echo. There was so much echo. The cadence is so easy to just not pay attention to as well.
Exactly.
What were you doing? Like, were you just daydreaming the whole thing and waiting for the live stream to start?
Yeah, pretty much. I was like, when is this gonna be over? Honestly, I was on my phone and just trying to look respectful.
I
don't know what it was about.
I thought about kicking off the live stream early because I was actually very bored. Like, it was just, I think you very quickly forget how boring it is to be a Jehovah's Witness, because you are not ever, as a normal person, in a position where you have to be this bored. Like, the closest thing would be if you were in say school, right? And if you were like in a boring like school setting, then yeah, maybe you'd be in this kind of situation where you're like, oh, I'm bored and stuck here. Not for this long though. So
yeah, I guess it was like a boring lecture.
Yeah, you very quickly forget about how boring this whole thing is.
This experience really showed me the importance of not staying inside your bubble. Even as an ex-Jehovah's Witness, we can get caught up in anecdotal evidence of lackluster attendances and small numbers of baptisms with no context, extrapolating them to argue that this is the downfall of Watchtower. It's only when you go back to sit in the uncomfortable seats, feel the suffocating boredom of every monotone speech, and go back into Jehovah's Witness mode that you can put aside your biases somewhat and see that this religion, at least in the experience of this anecdotal evidence, is thriving. Thank you so much to my supporters on YouTube and on Patreon who get access to behind the scenes videos, early cuts of videos, and more, as I mentioned in the beginning. I found interesting how little attention everybody's paying. Like, nobody's paying attention. I feel like there wasn't a single... There was like 15,000 people in the convention, right? And I doubt that even one of them, even one, pays as much or paid as much attention to the convention as I did for my convention videos. I've made a career out of just making commentary out of this stuff, and of paying attention to this stuff, and I just don't think the Jehovah's Witnesses pay attention to this. Just nobody was paying attention. Everybody was sitting down. Everybody was quiet. Nobody was paying attention, right?
Sorry, I wasn't